أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I hope everyone can hear me clearly. Uh, so, so we are starting now, and we'll start with the opening by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha. So I will appreciate if you can read along with me. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. So I welcome everyone to International Student of Islamic Psychology, West Africa, Nigeria. Now, to another public lectures that we always have at least every 2 weeks. And today we have someone that is special to me particularly, and also to ISIP Nigeria. He is also one of our advisory board member, and we are very honored to have him, especially as regards to the topic that he's going to be dealing with. There is a difference between when you are teaching something and when you possess what you are teaching. So I can testify to the fact that, aside the fact that this is also an area in his field, when it comes to contemporary and ethics and spirituality. It's someone that I've personally observed that he has lots of some of the things that we'll talk about in spirituality. Of course, spirituality is something that is broad. And I believe that if we're patient enough, not only that we're going to learn something that can be useful in academics, as some of the things that ISIP is trying to project, I also believe that we're going to learn something that we personally can use to improve our own life, inshallah. Without wasting much of our time, and we're already behind schedule, so I will invite Sister Amara to please give a little citation of our speaker.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Mohammed Muneer'deen Olodo Al-Shafi'i is a university senior lecturer at the Faculty of Islamic Contemporary Studies, Universiti Sultan Zainal Abidin. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Languages and Translation, English Literature and Linguistics at Al-Azhar University, Cairo, Egypt. He also has a postgraduate diploma in International Economics Relation and Negotiation at the Institute of National Planning, Cairo, Egypt. He has a postgraduate diploma in Global Maritime Distress and Safety System at Cairo Wireless Institute. And he has his master's and PhD in philosophy, theology, ethics, and contemporary issues at International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization at the University of Malaysia. He has contributed to journals, several articles, publication, and research works. His current research area is centered on ethics and its contemporary perceptions for a sustainable society, a contextual interpretation through the Qur'an and Al-Ghazali's Ihya Ulumu. So today he's going to be talking about the role of spirituality and development of Islamic psychology.
Thank you very much. Dr. Muneer'deen, the floor is yours now. Bismillah. If you need my support, please let me know as regards the sharing of the presentation.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم البصير من الشيطان الرجيم من همسه ونفخه ونفثه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. بجاه سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى. يا معلم آدم علمنا ويا مفهم سليمان فهمنا بكرامة وعلمك ما لم تكن تعلم وكان فضل الله عليك عظيما. Waban. A very good evening to everyone on the platform. But first and foremost, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We thank him, we glorify him, we adore him, we give all thankfulness to him because he is worthy of all praises and adorations. Following that, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to further show his mercies and blessings in abundance upon the noble Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. After that, we seek his rahmah on our parents that have fulfilled their covenant with Allah. May Allah forgive them, grant them eternal bliss. Those who are alive, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be with them, elongate their life. Our asatiza, our shuyukhs, teachers, lecturers, supervisors, anyone who has influenced our well-being intellectually, psychologically, rationally, educationally, we ask Allah to bless them and abundance. Those who are alive, Allah grant them eternal bliss, and those who are still, those who have fulfilled their covenant, Allah grant them eternal bliss, and those who are alive, we ask Allah to reward them abundantly and equally. And following that, well, let me appreciate the activities of the International Students of Islamic Psychology, to whom I am a member. Alhamdulillah, I follow, although I don't necessarily make myself present in all the programs, but I do familiarize myself with you. Thank you very much for the wonderful job you have been doing. And particularly the African chapter, and significantly the Nigerian chapter, and particularly and personally my dear brother and Ustaz Abdul Aziz for the wonderful job that he has been doing. I would affirm that he has been patient, persevering, and not pushing, but encouraging in most cases. So, and let me admit that this title, The Role of Spirituality in the Development of Islamic Psychology, was well tailored by him. So I did not have to look right and left to cut off or add anything. So it was rightly tailored by him. So I appreciate that. Jazakumullahu khairan for all that. Now, before I go into the program, let me appreciate and give acknowledgement to all those whom it is due. I'm going to be sharing with you, inshallah, the sources of today's presentation that we're about to witness. So I'm going to show about 6 or 7 references and sources from which this 20 slides presentation.
Please allow me to, Assalamu alaikum. Sorry to interlude you. There is an echo coming from your side. Maybe that you have to.
Yes,
maybe you can just reduce the volume of one of them so that.
Can you take this with you?
Okay. Now.
Take this with you. I just want to make sure I can hear everything. All right. Okay. I hope it should be clear by now.
Yes, it's clear. Yes.
Okay. So I am going to first acknowledge the sources from which today's presentation was derived from. So the first is what you can see on the screen, a study of the role Islamic spirituality in happiness of Muslim citizens. So that was by Amiruddin, Qarid, and Zailani. Okay, another one is a book, Living the Positive Psychology, Religion, and Spirituality. So that is a book in PDF. So it contributed, reading through it contributed to today's presentation. Another one, particularly on Al-Ghazali's view on souls. So this is an article, okay, on the heart, spirit, and the soul, a comparison between Ihya, Ulumu and Risala al-Aduni. So, and another one is the reliance on God as a core construct of Islamic psychology. So this also in the question of the role of spirituality. So if we take that spirituality to be God, so then it comes to the role of God in the development construct of Islamic psychology or development of Islamic psychology. So that also contributed to today's presentation. And next is the relationship between Islamic spirituality and psychological well-being. Because I see from a very close opinion that psychology is all about the well-being of humanity. So this article says something about that. And next is psychology from Islamic perspective. Okay, so there is one thing to have psychology generally. There is another thing to have Muslim psychology, and there's another thing to have Islamic psychology. So those three are not the same thing, so they are different. So I am going to touch on that later, inshallah. Then, so those are major works that contributed to this, the role of spirituality in the development of Islamic psychology. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward those authors and contributors of those articles and books in abundance for their work. Now, going into today's presentation. So the title is as presented on the screen. However, we can see 787 there. Now there is a very strong historical background of this 787. Some people will write it 786, and some will write it as 788. It is all the same, and it means the same thing, actually. And you will notice that I did not start with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim on the slides. I didn't put Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and I did not put Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina. That is intentional, and I wanted to send a message in particular. That 787. Actually, I usually write it in controversial presentations where I notice that people want to be more Islamic than other. So this started back in the 2007, 2008. My first year in Al-Azhar, and the first 4 or 5 papers that I wrote for the first semester, I failed 3 of them. And on searching and pressuring, what was the reason? You know, as Nigerians, you will want to know why. What is the reason? So this is an English literature which we were brought up with. And why would I fail English in Al-Azhar, culture, civilization, and why would I fail them? So on pressuring further after the result of the placed, so I was hinted that I violated the rule of examination. So what was that rule? In all the papers, I started with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. And so then if I wanted to do that, I should transfer my admission to Kuliya Dawa or the traditional Azhar, not the modern and contemporary Azhar. So then I found it difficult no, why would I do that? Why would I write papers without putting Bismillah? So that was when I came back, I got back to the knowledge of Hisab, the numerology. So calculating the Bismillah Rahman Rahim way. So starting with 787, so that is the concept of Bismillah Rahman Rahim. And henceforth, any paper that I wrote, I put that there. It was only at the fourth year, the final year, that a professor of Professor Abdul Bari Abdul Rahim specifically, only that time that he noted and he called me. But why do you write? What is the significance of this 787 on your papers all the time? Then I told him. Then he said, Yagada is like an evil genius. So we forbid you from doing it the right way. Then you do it. So that is just that.
Thank you for that.
Inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin la sharika lahu wa bidhalika umirtu wa ana awwalul muslimin or minal muslimin. So one of my master's degree supervisor, Allah Yarhamah, may Allah bless him, Ustaz Dr. Mohammed Al-Muhammadi, when he recites this ayah in the class, he would say, this was meant for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but as for we other Muslims, we should replace awwalul muslimin with minal muslimin. So that is the reason why I underlined the awwalul. And that ayah specifically is to prove a point that, when talking of Islamic psychology or Islamic anything, so the purpose of all that is just one. And that one purpose is ما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون إن الله هو الرزاق ذو القوة المتين. So that is just the concept. Whatever knowledge we acquire or we accumulate, it should be for the purpose of inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin, and so on and so forth. Now, so that is just by the way. Now, in the title of the presentation today, there are three significant terms. Number one is spirituality. Number two is Islamic psychology. And the other one is development. So that is Dauru. And if we take spirituality, we are going to come to that. So what is spirituality itself? Spirituality, al-ruhiyya, al-aqal, al-nafsu, Allahu. So Dawru al-Qur'an or Dawru al-Islam or Dawru al-Din fi insha'i al-ilm al-nafsi al-Islami. So the role of Islamic spirituality in the development of Islamic psychology. So that is, so now we are going to identify three things. Number one, spirituality. So that is under the conceptual meaning. The other one is psychology. So then the Islamic part of it, I'm just going to explain it. So when we mention Islamic psychology in the title, so it has given me a clear cut of a direction of what to do and where to go and where to set. So I did not have to go to the Western. I did not relent much on the Western psychological perspective. So everything that I provide here is just from the Islamic background because it has been clearly cut. So by that, and I also appreciate it being Islamic rather than being Muslim psychology. Now, there is one thing being, that brings me to the concept of Islamization and Islamization. All right, so there is one thing to Islamize psychology, and there's another thing to Islamicize psychology. Okay, so to Islamize psychology will mean that we are borrowing the perspective from the Western psychology, then we are using our own Islamic background to replace whatever they have with what we have. So that is Islamization. Now, Islamization, coming from Islamicization, it is already Islamic. So whatever we do from there, it is taken from Islamic root. So that would be from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that will be an Islamic psychology, and that is what I've concentrated on here. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us. And here, forgive me if I am not representing this well. I put International Students of Islamic Psychology, African Nigerian chapter. As the abbreviation, I put ISIP-1. So West African Nigerian. So forgive me for putting that one, but I just thought
we understand, yeah.
if it's truly, if it's not fixing, I apologize for that. Now, so these are the contents of the presentation today. We have only 6. So the general introduction, the conceptual meanings, the precedents, then Al-Ghazali's concept of nafsu or soul, which since that is what we are dealing with, ilmu nafs. So ilmu nafs is the science of the soul or the psychology. So then the spiritual rules, then the summary and further discussions. Now, with the general background or introduction, now I go back to the basic concept of all acts in Islam or in the life of humanity, so which is the early 5, the very first early 5 verses that are revealed unto the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Surah Al-Ala, or Surah Al-Ala. Okay, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So now the point here is Iqra. We have Iqra there, but that doesn't only mean recite. It means do, act, relate, whatever you want to do, bi ismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. So now we are going to see that this bismi rabbika, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, and all this. So it sprouts all throughout the lives and the concepts and perceptions of all the Anbiya and all those that are mentioned in the Quran. So in Surah An-Naml, so it was the basic foundation of the communication between Nabi Sulaiman and Balqis. So when Sulaiman wanted to start communication with Sulaiman, the first point was Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and that is prevalent in the statement of the Quran reporting, relating it from Balqis that Ya ayu al-mala inni ulqiya ilayya kitabun karim innahu min Sulaymana wa innahu bismillahir rahmanir rahim alla ta'alu alayya wa'tuni muslimin. So that is the basic concept. So the Suleiman did not start by forcing them. He started by everything that he wanted to do. He started it with the name of Allah. Come to Islam, accept Allah ta'alu alayya. Do not be arrogant on me. What to me Muslimin? Come to me in surrendering yourself and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in acceptance of that, the first statement that was recorded of Balqis in the Quran was towards the end of that story, of that narration. So that is when she said, فكشفت عن ساقيها فكشفت عن ساقيها قال إنه صرع ممرد من قوارير. When she wanted to cross the river that was made of glass, something of that we can call aquarium, okay, an aquatic bridge was to cross. Then she thought it was water and river rolling off her clothes and velvet, and Suleiman just said, no, don't do that. It is just something that was designed of glasses. So you don't have to be, water is not going to talk. Then she was astonished, oh, this can be found around the Prophet of Allah. Then she said, Rabbi, inni zalamtu nafsi wa aslamtu ma'a Sulaymana lillahi rabbil alamin. Remember, he did not say aslamtu li Sulayman. He said, aslamtu ma'a Sulaymana lillahi rabbil alamin. Simply, aslamtu lillahi. I accepted for Allah, along with Sulaiman. So it was also prevailing Ismullah there. So in anything that we want to do, the basic foundation is what? Is this Iqra Bismi Rabbika Alladhi Khalaqa. Now, so that brings us to the concept of what would be the role of spirituality in Islamic psychological development. Now, so that is on the part of the Quran. When we go to the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, so the very first hadith in all the hadiths of the Kutub al-Hadith, the books of hadith, the very first hadith that we're going to find there is about intention. It's about Iqra Bismi Rabbika Alladhi Khalaq. So that is the interpretation of the Iqra. So innamal a'malu binniyati wa innama likulli mri'in ma nawa. Faman kanat hijratuhu, and so on and so forth. So now the best form, so we are made to understand that whatever we intend will come true, but the best thing that we should intend is supposed to be lillahi. فَمَنْ كَانَتْ هِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ فَهِجْرَتُهُ لِلَّهِ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. So, and that is the best. So if it is for other things, you will get it, but that is for materiality. So you will not get any other reward. So even if it is from according to some Sufi perspective, even when doing anything, when you are making Iqra or the Niyya, the Ismi Rabbika, don't have it with the intention of getting reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do it for the purpose of Allah wants you to do it. And you are doing it for Allah to gain Allah, not to gain reward of Allah. So, because at the end of the day, if you do it to gain the reward of Allah, at the Jannah in the day of Fi Harasatul Qiyamah, in the day of the resurrection, you are going to have that reward granted to you. Then afterward, after getting that reward, what else? Allah is still there. You are not going to get Allah. So, but if you have done it solely for Allah, lillahi, with Allah, on Allah, so then whatever whatever reward that you get is an addition. So that is the basic background of that. Now, coming to the conceptual meanings of spirituality. Now, spirituality or spiritualism, if we want to go to the Western terminology of isms or spirits. Now, what is the concept of spirit? What is the concept of spirituality? What do we call spirituality? Now, spirit is anything that is beyond our five senses. Anything that is beyond our five senses is spiritual to us. Now, in philosophy, we call that metaphysics. Metaphysics. So meta, M-E-T-A, physics, okay, physics is nature. Now, the opposite of that is meta. So meta is what is beyond our physics. And the physics here are five senses. The eyes, the nose, the ears, the tongue, and the skin. So these are the five senses. So now anything that we cannot acquire with these five senses is meta these senses. So in scientific word notion, there is a sixth one, which is the ration. The ration. So the ration is not counted as physics because we can actually not physically perceive it. We feel it, but it is counted of the metaphysics. Okay. So now, once we cannot use any of these six to acquire anything that we cannot acquire or acclaim by using the five senses, falls under spirituality. Now, to understand that, we go into the very first 5 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ لَا رَيْبَ فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب. Now, so that is the concept here. So that book, La Rayb, that book is not a joke. That book is not for fun. It's not a fun fable. فيه هدى للمتقين. There during it is guidance for those who are conscious. Now, who are those who are conscious? When Allah says something, He will clarify it by Himself. So, al-muttaquna humul alladhina yu'minuna bil ghayb. That is number one. Those who have belief in the al-ghayb, in the metaphysical realms, in what they cannot acclaim with their senses. Those who believe in spiritualities. So that actually comes before وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. It comes before that. If you do not believe in spirituality, then you don't have any cause praying or zakat or hygiene or any other thing. The first basic foundation is al-imanu bil-ghayb. Now, what is this al-ghayb? Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a part of that ghayb. Number two, what we call ilmullah, or what we call iradatullah. Okay, because in philosophy, which is the basic foundation of psychology, so it is believed that, a bit by some scholars, it is argued by some other scholars, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is too magnificent to be directly involved in the creation of lesser things. So thereby, the concept of innama amruhu idha arada shay'an an yakula lahu kun fayakun. Allah do not necessarily use His hand in creation of things. When He wanted to create Adam alayhi salam, inna mathala Isa inda Allahi ka mathali Adama khalaqahu min turabin thumma qala lahu kun fayakun. So Allah was not involved practically, physically in the creation of Adam. He said, Inni khaliqum basharan min tin. I am going to cause a creation of man from the crust. Now, what was in creation was the iradatullah. So that iradatullah is also a part of the ghayb. So next to that is the angelic. Okay, what I call so that one is the exoteric existences. Okay, so the other one that comes after it is what is that? No, don't go yet. We're not done with that. So we have the angelic existences, then we have angelic-like realms.
Angelic light.
Okay, so then we also have the genes, and the genes are also part of game. Then the words in between are also part of the game. So if we do not have, so a part of this is also ghosts, the ghost, those who have died, but one way or the other have their soul by the permission of Allah interacting with some other creatures, ghosts. Now, so all these are parts of the spirituality. Now, let me state here categorically, apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some gates, some spirituality realm can be physical realm to some people. Let's take the Anbiya'ullah, the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, particularly Nabiyuna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What is ghaib to us is not ghaib to him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ghaib to us. The presence, the spiritual realms of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Jannah, the Nar, the angelic presence, they are all ghaibs to us, all of us. But to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they were not. If we say they were, then we will not have believed in the Isra wal Miraj. During the Isra wal Miraj, the Prophet was shown, okay, some may say spiritually, that is a part of the spirit itself. Okay, so it was shown the Jannah, it was shown the Nar, it was shown the state of Sayyidina Musa, Isa, Idris, alayhi salam. So it was shown all that. So all those were not grave, they are not spiritual to him. So, and the jinns, so there is record, specifically in his own hadith, that he went to preach to the jinns. He was invited by the jinns to come and preach to them. So he went to them. So the jinns were not spiritual to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so that is to say, there are some spiritual stages that could be spiritual to some people, but unspiritual to the others. Living in Dubai or Qatar could be a dream and admiration of some people, while to those people who are already there, they do not count it as anything, they are living it physically. We being in America or America is the same as US, Canada, UK or others, so it might be admiration. Some people might be dreaming of it, that is spiritual to them, they have not been there. So whereby to some people, it is already physical. So we as Africans, what we experience there is admiration of some people in the European and Asian continent. They don't know what we are facing, what we are feeling there. So it is spiritual to them. It's like, are there really people there? So only when they go there, oh, there are really people here. So this is one thing that can be spiritual. Okay, to the Sahaba of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they can say, if you ask them, what was an angel like? They can say he was like so person. So that is prevalent in the hadith of Islam and Iman. The man that came to kneel down in front of the Prophet for asking the rukbatehi, and so on and so forth. That description, if you ask the Sahaba that were present, they would describe the angels as such. Because the Prophet said, Atadruna man is-sa'il. Do you know who was the inquirer? They said, Allah wa rasuluhu a'lam. Only Allah and his Prophet know. He said, Innahu Jibril. Ataakum li yu'allimukum adinakum. So he is Jibril. He is Jibril. He has come to familiarize you with your religion. So they can describe the Jibril in so form. I cannot. You cannot. So now, for those who saw and witnessed and lived with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they can describe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Ayatul Islam. There is a book that we studied in the madrasa when we were in Nigeria, Ayatul Islam. In Ayatul Islam, there is a vivid description of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in that book about his the color of his hair, his shape and all that. No one would describe him except those who lived with him. To me, the Hayatul Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a spiritual to them. It belongs to a spiritual realm to me. I didn't see him. I can only study him in the Quran. As Allah in وَلَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ, and so on and so on. So for me, it belongs to the spiritual realm and to others. So for some people, when the Prophet was quoted as saying, anyone who sees me in dream or in vision has seen me in reality. I have not seen him before. I have never seen him. So I want anyone who has seen him to describe how he is to me. But that description must match with some other people who have seen him and dreamed of him also. We will see that the description will be different from person to person. So for some people, it may not be spiritual, but to many of us, it will be spiritual. So this is to say that there are categories of spirituality. So spirituality, what is spirituality? Spiritual to some people might not be spiritual to some other. Okay. Now, so that is in the concept of warafa abadakum fawqa ba'din darajatin. To the diversity of exposure of the spiritual realms, to the in the concept of that area. So some of you might take something spiritual, while some others have taken it physical. Okay. So now when we are talking of all this, now we come down to the Quran itself as an embodiment of spirituality. A student, not a student actually, I don't call my student, a brother. A brother in the class in one of the discussions said, now, sir, why would Allah, if it is really Allah, this is a son of a notable scholar. Now, he was asking, Ustaz, why does Allah need to introduce himself to us if he is really Allah? Why does he not leave us to search and find out about him? Why does he need to call himself Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim? Isn't that being proud? And he said he doesn't want us to be proud. Why would he want us, why would he mention himself in Udu Allah wa Rahman ayyamma tad'un falahul asma'ul husna? Why would he tell us all that if he is not proud of himself? And why will he say, why will he deprive us of something and he does it? Well, I was confused. I was confused, honestly. I was confused because to say that this brother doesn't know what he's saying is out of it. He knows what he's saying. He's a son of a scholar. His father is a professor. His father is a mufti and secretary general to a very known Islamic organization. So to say that he doesn't understand Islam is out of it. He does, but he is confused. Then I had to postpone the question and the discussion to the end of the class because I didn't want to disgrace myself, thinking that pretending that I know what I know is intention. Then while continue our other discussion, I was thinking inside myself and conceptualizing what would be the aim of this brother? Why would they do this? Then I avoided eye contact with him. So then at the end of the class, I stylistically wanted to end the class. Then he said, oh, sir, about that question. Then, well, something just came to me. It was not by my knowledge anyway. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to have an explanation to that. Then my question was, had it been Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not said he was Allah or he is Allah in the Quran or in any book, what would you call him? How would you identify him? And the class was silent for a while. So when the class was silent, then I was inspired again. Then I asked to ask them, so here in your country, what do you call God? Forget about Allah. What do you call God? G-O-D in English. What do you call God here? Then they mentioned names and this. I said, okay, how do you come about those concepts, those names? how do you come about them in your language? He said, we inherited them. So if you did not inherit those names, so how will you come to realize those names as they are, as what they signify? Because our forefathers, maybe they have searched about it. Now, that is the purpose of Allah, because Allah does not want you to wander about. So that is the purpose of, if you were Ibrahim alayhi salam, you will be, your question will fix into the personality of Sayyidina Ibrahim, who did not have opportunity of reading Quran before. You have opportunity of reading Quran. Sayyidina Ibrahim did not have that opportunity of reading the whole Quran. So he was searching for God. Ra'a kawkaban. He saw a star. He said, Hada Rabbi. This is my God. Calling star, my God. So after that, when that one set in, he said, La uhibul afilin. I don't want a God that comes and goes. So then he saw Shamsa, he saw Qamar, he saw the sun and the moon and all this. And he said, this. So when they all went, he said, no, call me. So, oh my people, I am tired of everything that you call God. Okay, I want God to show himself to me. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want you to wander like Sayyidina Ibrahim. So that is the concept and the necessity of him mentioning and clarifying himself to you. Now, the reason for this explanation is that, how do we know spirituality? If God is a part of spirituality, how do we know him? If the angels, the Iradatullah, the angelic like realms, and all the jinns, if they are all parts of spiritualities, how did we come to know about that? The only source of our information about all this is the Quran. So the Quran tells us about God, it tells us about the angels, tells us about the Jannah and Nar, tells us about all the ahwalul ruhiyya, it tells us about the jinn, it tells us about even ourselves. So that means the embodiment of the spirituality is the Quran. So thereby, what is the role of Quran in the development of Islamic psychology? So that is, we tailor it down to that.
Okay.
What is the concept? What is the role of the Quran in shaping Islamic psychology, in directing Islamic psychology? So by this, we will look into the concept of an-nafs, the concept of the soul, which is the basic form and foundation of Islamic psychology. Now, spirituality, these are readings that, partially taken from the Western perspective, okay, and related to the Quranic perspective, okay. So then going down to the redded point, I come to say that spirituality is meaningless without knowing the truths of the realm of the material world. Now, without understanding the source of the material world, the particularity of the material world, spirituality will be meaningless. Now, it means here that everything that we see around us, we go to the philosophical concept of them. Are they real or they are corporeal? If they are real, we mean that they are everything in themselves. They made themselves, they created themselves. So if they are corporeal, they have a maker, they have a source and origin. So what is the purpose for them? So And without knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his attributes and all and other actions, religious or irreligious, so spirituality will be meaningless. So we have to understand it from that perspective. So if we do, then we will be able to move on. Now, spirituality, as said earlier, does not stop at a fixed point. So that at this point, I've actually explained it in the concept of warafa abadokum fawqa ba'din darajat. So it is not just one stage and one level of spirituality. There are many levels. So, and it differs from one individual to the other. It differs from one individual to the other. Okay. So, and that also can be understood in the concept of in the Surah 15. لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين. Okay, إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات and so on and so forth. Now, if we want to understand the matter of the heart and the what we are expected to do to maintain our spiritual aspect, then we also can read Surah Al-Hujurat verse 7. Okay, so it also explains and clarifies that. Now we come to psychology. So that conceptual meaning of spirituality, we come to psychology. Psychology, I don't want to go to the source and the origin of whether it was Sanskrit or it was Latin origin or Greek origin. I don't want to go into that. Okay, so now, so what is the focus? What is the purpose of what is the purpose of psychology? So as I see it, so it is it aims at recreation and joy. Recreation, revitalization of human self. Re-realization, making man to re-realize himself. Okay, so to take care of humans' self and soul and well-being by extension. Okay, so by this, if we under the purpose of psychology, that is Ulumu nafsu, so the science and understanding of the self or soul is to maintain both spiritual, intellectual, rational, and physical well-beings of man. So if these are attained and achieved, psychology is sure that man will be happy. And happiness is the utmost purpose of psychology to man. So by this, since the primary goal of Islam is true perfection of humans and achieving higher meaning and purpose in life, so the happiness emphasized here must be such that it doesn't conflict with the goal of creation and the utmost perfection of humans. So psychology wants to make sure that when we are happy and when we are joyous, so it does not go into the concept of wala tafra inna allaha la yuhibbul farihin. So do not overjoy. Don't misuse the happiness. Okay, so psychology wants us to be balanced, to live a balanced life, to have a balanced happiness, so that we do not conflict with what the goal of creation. And what is that goal of creation? مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونِ. When we are happy, we remember psychology wants to tap into our sense that remember, it is not by your power. وَمَا رَمَيْتَ إِذْ رَمَيْتَ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. Even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses the Prophet in that. So whatever you have achieved is not physically and materially achieved by your goal, by your strength. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ رَمَى. It is by the strength and by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So basically here, the aim of psychology is to recreate joy and happiness in man in relation to making him realize that with the purpose of his life, which is al-ibadah lillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in realizing that, in realizing the recreation, in recreating and causing joy and happiness for man, so these are some 10 ways or Islamic teachings that can enhance our psychological well-being. Number one, according to Surah Taha, verse 124, to remembrance of Allah is one of the way by which we attain happiness, joy, recreation. Allah bidhikrillahi tatma'innul qulubul ladina amanu wa amilus solihat. It is only by the remembrance of Allah that we can have tranquility of heart. And that tranquility of heart is one of the purposes and the goals of psychology. Now, we can also achieve that through trust in God as a cornerstone of a happy and blissful life. Okay, so that is also believing in Allah and counting us among those who are the muttaqin, alladhina yu'minuna bil ghaibi. So one of which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 3, adherence to the fixed and the defined values. Now, what are the fixed and defined values here? This is where the concept of Sharia comes from. Okay, ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. So these are the fixed and defined values. So what Allah has commanded us to do, we follow. And what He has forbidden us from doing, we distance ourselves from them. So these are the fixed and defined values. If we must get happy and joy, we have to live in adherence to all these fixed and defined values. In other words, according to the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the perfectly laid down rules and regulations as defined by the Sharia. Number 4, satisfaction and contentment with life. So that is al-qana'ah. Al-qana'ah, so in psychology, so we have to take ourselves to be the happiest, to be contented with what we have. So by not, وَلَا تَمُدَّنَّ عَيْنَاكَ إِلَى مَا مَتَّعْنَا بِهِ أَزْوَاجًا مِنْهُمْ زَهْرَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. So thou shalt not stretch thou eyes, okay, to the ornaments of life. So do not look upon what other people has had above you. So that is in another hadith. Don't look at those above you. Look at those who are not opportune to have what you have. So satisfaction and contentment is also a source of achieving psychological well-being. Number 5, hope for the future. Okay, لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله إن الله يغفر الذنوب جميعا. In whatever situation we find ourselves, psychologically, we should not despair. We should not lose hope. Okay, so even if we are mutir, then we increase in our ta'ah. So if we are musib, we're doing something that is wrong, then we hope that by Allah's permission, one day we are going to be granted permission to leave all those sinful acts. So hope for the future. If we don't have today, you hope that فَإِنَّمَا عَلَى عُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّمَا عَلَى عُسْرِ يُسْرًا. Okay, so I don't have today. Tomorrow there is hope that I'm going to have. فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ وَإِلَى رَبِّكَ فَارْغَبْ. So whenever, in what situation, when you finish in supplication to Allah, then you look up to Allah. That is the future, the hope for the future. Then purposefulness. Okay, so we have to realize the goal and the aim and objective of our being. If we do that, we will understand that our aim and objective is not accumulation of wealth and materialities. To be happy, it is not everything that is based, happiness is not based on accumulation of worldly and materialities alone. So the purpose is, am I doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created me for, or am not? So if we find ourselves fulfilling that, then we are fulfilling the purpose. Otherwise, we should struggle more. To believing in happiness, so not, and that one is also related to number 5. Okay, not relenting. Okay, believing that the condition we are today, if it is not favorable to us, it doesn't mean that Allah has forsaken us. ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى. So what if it is not favorable today? Know fervently that Allah has not forsaken you. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لَكَ مِنَ الْأُولَى. Tomorrow is going to be happier than today. Okay? And so on. So then number 8, avoiding unnecessary and wrong rituals. Now, this is, and as this comes to, anyway, I'm not going to say this is peculiar to us in Africa. It is all around. Everywhere I've been, I think people do unnecessary rituals, not necessarily wrong, but unnecessary. I've seen people going for khalwa for 41 days, for 70 days, not seeing anybody and not eating, not drinking, this and that, not enjoying life. And I've seen people saying that they are not going to see their spouses for several days and this and that because of this and that. Now, and when you look at what they are looking for, it is based on materialities. So if you are doing that for the sake of Allah, Allah has not asked you, كُلُّ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّذِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ. Allah has not asked anyone to forsake him, to leave what he has given as halal for you. Allah did not say, don't eat, don't drink, don't this and that. No, eat accordingly, okay, necessarily, when you have to eat, but he has not said, don't eat at all for certain days because I want you to seek my pleasure. No. But again, if you are doing that to seek the pleasure of Allah, okay. But majority of what we are doing that for is for worldly matter. I want to get a visa of America. By the way, why do we have to fast for America's visa? When have we fasted to get Umrah visa and Hajj visa? What is the problem with us? Okay, I've seen people who go into fasting for 7 days without, they call it white fasting. White fasting, only drinking water, only taking some fruits, and it's okay, no problem. It is for spiritual development. But if it is going to hurt, Allah has not placed on people لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا ما آتاها, something like that. Okay, so Allah has not emboldened people to do. So this is now, I stress on it because it is common to all of us. I stress on this because it is common. So psychologically, to be happy, we avoid unnecessary rituals. So I heard from an ustaz, Allah bless him, he said, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not do more than 100 istighfar a day. So why do we want to do 1,000 istighfar? Why do you want to go La ilaha illallah 1 million times? What is the purpose of that? The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam that brought it did not do more than 100. He advises 100. In Salatul Subh, Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, it is Subhanallah 33, Alhamdulillah 33, Allah Akbar 33. So why do you want to go on the overboard 1 million times? and locking yourself in the room, not talking to your wife, not talking to your children, not talking to anyone. If someone calls you on the phone, you are not going to respond. Why? So may Allah bless that ustaz. I think, so number 9, honesty. So as-siddiqu. So we have to be honest in dealing with Allah, in dealing with al-din, in dealing with each other. So when you are honest with yourself and we are honest with ourselves, whatever comes our way, we will know it is destined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in honesty, you believe that whatever comes your way is not destined to miss your way. And whatever misses your way is not destined to come your way. So that is all. So number 10 is being positive. Okay, being positive, taking everything positively, even when it seems otherwise. Take it as, yeah, in good faith. Another word, in good faith, having good faith of any occurrence of everyone. So that is that about that. Now, the question of which precedes what, which precedes which comes first, spirituality or psychology? Which comes first? So we know now from the aforementioned explanations that, of course, some people say psychology is not mentioned in the Quran. Yeah, I would agree to that partially. Ilmun nafs per se, ilmun nafs is not mentioned, but individually, ilmu is mentioned in the Quran, nafsu is mentioned in the Quran, but the combination of the two together is not mentioned. So, and again, when the ilmu is mentioned and nafsu is mentioned, it is not in the concept of the current Western psychological perception and understanding. So that we can say, but to say that ilmu nafsun is not mentioned in Quran, partially true and partially not true. All right. So now, which one comes first? Spirituality, Islamic psychology. So we will see Islamic psychology is a part of Islamic thought and studies. So if Islamic psychology is a branch of Islamic thought and Islamic studies, Islamic field, which generates from Quranic concept, which is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we will have to agree that spirituality precedes psychology. That is the hierarchical. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, his knowledge, the angelic knowledge, the knowledge of the exoteric realms, so the genic and Adamic knowledge and other knowledge. So we can see number 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, they totally belongs to the metaphysical realms, to the spiritualities. So then number 5, 6, and 7, okay, so the 5th and the 6th, okay, so they come under physicalities. So that means to say everything is either esoteric or exoteric. Okay, every knowledge, every aspect of life is either falls under one of the two, either esoteric with ESO or exoteric with EXO, as we are going to see in Al-Ghazali's concept of soul very soon. Okay, so in the light of that, we will see that then spirituality in all its ramifications, in all its forms, it comes and precedes psychology and every other thing. Now we come to, I came to Al-Ghazali as a representation of all the Muslim scholars. Okay, so whatever we find in Al-Ghazali regarding the concept of soul is what we find in Al-Kindi, is what we find in Al-Farabi, is what we find in Ibn Sina, is what we find in Ibn Rushdi. So that is, I take him because it's a balanced one in between all of them, among all of them. So that is why I concentrate on him. And of course, my current research is focused and direct towards is Ihya Ulumuddin. Okay, so, and here I bring about two Ghazali concept of soul. One part is esoteric concept, the other part is exoteric concept. So what is the most relevant to our discussion here is Al-Ghazali's concept of soul exoterically. Okay, and spiritually, metaphysically. So the first part, I can say that he is describing al-qalbu. Now, when we're talking of an-nafsu, or the soul, in Islam, in the Quran, among the Muslim scholars, there are about 4 things and terms that they use interchangeably. Al-qalbu, which is the heart, an-nafsu, which is the soul, al-aqlu, which is the ration or rationality, and ar-ruhu, which is the spirit. Okay, ar-ruh. So these 4, okay, al-qalbu, and al-aqlu, an-nafsu, ar-ruhu. So all of them, when if we search through all our Muslim scholars' book, philosophically or psychologically, we have the same interpretations to all of these 4. They say they are jawharun ruhaniyun in terms of al-aqlu, an-nafsu, al-ruhu. They call them jawharun ruhaniyun, spiritual substances. Spiritual substance. So in some other words, they say they are jismun latifun. Jismun latifun, a very subtle substance, subtle, corporate substance. So now, but the work of each of them differ. When al-aql was not mentioned in the old Quran, an-nafsu and ar-ruhu was mentioned, and al-qalbu was mentioned. The reason is not far-fetched. Al-aql is the basic on which the Quran was revealed. So if it was the basic on which, in continuation, so I was saying that the Ghazali's concept of nafsu can be understood in 2 ways, in 2 major ways. One is esoteric way, and the other one is exoteric way. So the most relevant to our discussion is the exoteric aspect of this concept. So which is that? It says it is a subtle, divine, and spiritual. Okay, and it is the essence of a man. Okay, so that is the concept, that is the exoteric concept of an-nafsu, or the soul, according to Imam Al-Ghazali. Said, so the nafsu is latifa, okay, it is rabbaniya, so it is ruhiya. So all this, to compound it all, it says, this is the actual essence of a man. So the description of the soul in this aspect so constitutes the dignity and the real essence and the real existence of man. Without that part of ruh, man will not be. So that is with that kind of soul, man perceives, knows, is aware of everything, and he can be held responsible for his deeds, whether good or bad. Without this, human being cannot be held accountable. So that is the essence, that is the aspect of the soul that I want us to take a note of here. So he says, the heart in this sense represents the whole human personality in relation to this world and what to come. So he says it is the heart which enables man to attain to knowledge of God, to draw near him, to work for him and labor towards him. It is the heart which rejoices in proximity to him and prospers. So that is to say, without this exoteric form of soul, man is nothing. It is only a body which is of just materiality. So that is the essence. So in essence, Al-Ghazali is saying that so the purpose of then he comes to the purpose of nafsu. So what is the purpose of that nafsu to human psychology? So it is to make him having a tawakkul on Allah, to reliance on Allah. So this reliance is also related and connected to the 10 aspects that we have explained earlier in the psychological well-being of man. So specifically here, so it says tawakkul or reliance. So it has cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and relational components. So in the cognitive concept, so Allah is considered as the order and the basic cause of everyday events. Nothing can happen without him. So we have to cognize that, we have to understand that. So emotionally, so we have to be we have to be ready to identify ourselves with what? With Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to be inclined towards him and trust him as a sufficient source for all our needs. So behaviorally, in the morally, I mean, so we can achieve this in relation to ourselves and fellow other creatures in achieving the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the relational level, so this can be divided into 4 or 5. Okay, so that is relation of man to man himself, relation of man to his fellow human being, relation of man to fellow non-human being, to other creatures, animals, plants, and all those around. Then relation of man to the religion of Allah in ibadah, then the relation of man to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this, man will seek Allah's proximity, and believing in his availability and support are considered crucial. So these are all that we can gain from Al-Ghazali's. Now, what is the role? Okay, now this is the final section. So the role of spirituality. Okay, so to attain psychological balance and well-being, we need to understand the state of the soul. What are the states of the soul? Understand the soul, the first state, al-amara, so the second one, al-lawama, the third, al-mutma'inna, the fourth, al-radiya and al-mardiya. So the first two, al-amara and al-lawama, so they are the negative aspect of soul. So the third, fourth, and fifth, they are the praiseworthy ones. So it is the role of psychology to make us to understand the both aspects of the soul, the amara and the lawama, to avoid us from them, and to understand mutma'inna and radiya and mardiya, and to accomplish us with them. So it is the role of spirituality of Quran is to aid the soul in attaining the last three stages, the states of the soul, al-mutma'inna, al-radiya, the placing, wal-mardiya, and the placed with. So that ends our discussion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the guidance therein. So I once again appreciate and thank ISIP-International students of Islamic Psychology generally, the branch in the West African specifically, and the coordinator in particular, and of course every attendees to this program. I say Jazakumullahu khairan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the benefit herein. to whatever we have as benefits, rightly quoted and rightly said in this presentation belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul. And whatever defects and mistakes and error, misquotes that are there from me, I accept the responsibility. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and guide us right. So with this, we conclude the session. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us and put us in His covenant. بإذنه وبالله التوفيق والهداية والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, Prof. I personally, and I think I'm speaking with on behalf of everyone, that I enjoy the presentation. New perspectives and the mode of explanation, they are beautiful. And I personally believe this presentation will be very useful for maybe a tip for research. And I'll personally ask you to please be generous in sharing some of the references that you refer to in the earlier on. If you are able to give it to us, some of the books that you share, I'll personally ask you for that later. Hope you are going to grant me that request.
Inshallah, I will send them to your telegrams, inshallah.
Thank you very much. I'm very rewarded. So I want to ask I want you to clarify the spelling of Islamization and Islamicization, and which one you refer to. I think you said Islamization is when we are bringing in the Western idea, right? And then trying to make use of what we have in our own to change those terminologies. And then you say Islamicization is the real one. So I want to clarify if I'm wrong or not. Then the spelling, so that
Islamization.
You can write it in the chat.
Islamization is spelled. Where is the chat? I want to go into the chat. Okay. Islamization. Sometimes they write it with Z. Sometimes they write it with S.
Yes. Okay.
Islamization. Okay. So that is
this is when we use the Western idea, right?
When we use the Western concepts,
then
we find a way to replace them with Islamic terminology.
Okay.
So then the other one is Islamicization. Islamicization, taken from Islamic.
Okay.
It is already Islamic. It is already Quranic.
Just developed.
Already Hadithic. So it is already scholastic within the Islamic realm.
Okay.
So, but we are trying to explain it in a way that the general humanity will understand it.
Understood. Now, okay. So the next question is:
it stems from inside the Islam itself.
No.
Okay. The other one, Islamization, it
outside,
external to Islam.
So is there a link between, because you mentioned briefly that ghost, that there is a way Allah still make some of our souls to still exist somehow. So I want to say, is there a link between, although I know that's another broad topic in Islamic psychology. So I want to ask, is there a link between ghost and barzakh? Is there a link in that?
Between
the ghost and the realm of barzakh?
Barzakh. This is another perspective entirely. So the barzakh itself, of course, it's another way. It is another way that we have not so far. We have not seen anyone who have been there and returned back and tell us what is in there.
Yes.
Okay, so that is, but according to the hadith of the Prophet, he says, "Man mata faqad qamat qiyamatuhu." There's an hadith that the Prophet was quoted as saying, "Man mata faqad qamat qiyamatuhu." Anyone who has died, is already receiving his resurrectoral experiences. Meaning to say, the process of him being resurrected has started from his death. So, but however, so there is a transition period between his death, the seizure of the soul, and that actual resurrection. So that is what we call al-hayatul barzakhiyya, and it differs from one person to the other. Okay, so the longevity, the duration that people are going to stay there, so it differs. Now, whether Islamically, we are made to believe that there is no way a soul of a person can come back to life or can be seen after his death. But spiritually, in some beliefs, not limited to African belief or Nigerian belief or any tribe belief. So it is also here. Here they call it Hantu. Hantu, H-A-N-T-U. Hantu. So Hantu, so literally ghost. Literally ghost. Ghost. So every family here, most family here believe that every Friday, the spirits and the soul of their beloved ones come to visit the house. Come to visit the house.
Not far from what we usually hear in Africa.
So it depends on whether they were good or they were not, they were otherwise. So that is why you see every Friday after Salat, people tend to go to the graveyard of their beloved ones, taking water there, flowers there, and plants there, going to reshape the grave and all that. So, and whether we believe it or not, people do see, some people do experience the sight of the ghost of their dead ones. Okay, but Islamically, as some will elaborate it or interpret it, they will say that form that we see is genic form, genic form of those persons. It is the jinn that is making use of the forms of those persons. All right, whether the jinn is making use of the form or not, there are some other ways or other places that the jinn can go to use the form of those people. Why using it to appear to their people? That is the question.
So,
but very simply in relation to our discussions here, so the Hayatul Barzakhiyya is still one of the al-ghayb of spiritualities to us, because at least we have not died.
Yes.
We are still alive. So it is only those who have died that Barzakh is not spiritual to them. But again, they cannot come back to life to tell us that this is how it is. Although we have some traditional from this relation where some good or some pious men were dreamed up. So and they were asking them, how did you find the Barzakh? How did you, what is the relationship there? And they tell them what they told them. So these are narrations. So it can be whimsy, it can be truthful, it can be that Allahu Alam. We can only trust that which we see, which we hear from the hadith of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But having said that, we cannot say, because from the philosophical background, we cannot say that completely we rule out people's experience of the ghost. The word ghost itself will not exist without the existence of the form.
Exactly.
In here, they use Hantu, H-A-N-T-U. If there is nothing like that, that word and terminology will not surface.
Now.
So in In our own Yoruba environment, they call them Oku or something like that. So it will okay you. It will not exist without that form existing. So in Hausa, they have the form.
Yes.
So in Igbo, they have the form. So where did they get the terminologies from? So if there has not been, if they have not been experienced, so linguistically, literally, we cannot completely rule it out. But when we come to Islamic belief, Islam overrules everything. We don't believe in all those as Muslims, but other people do experience it. That is the fact.
No, thank you very much for that. So the last question I have here, it says, so what is the thin line between making effort and recognizing destiny? So at what point should a person say, okay, I don't need to, I'm giving up. I don't need to make effort because this thing is actually not for me. Because, you know, destiny is also part of the ilm ghaib. But we are also told to strive to make efforts. But at what point should we say, okay, I think I should not make any effort again? This thing is not meant for me. So I want to understand that thing.
Well, I will relate with an ayah of the Quran. وَعَبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ وَعَبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ And serve your Lord until you have received certainty. Now, the only time when we stop making efforts is when we have received certainty. Now, this certainty in the books of Tafsir is interpreted in many forms, but majority of the interpreters of the Mufassiruns, they interpret this certainty as the true assurance of acceptance of our ibadah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The utmost and the final assurance, receiving assurance from Allah that our ibadah has been accepted. We do not have to strive again. That is the only time that we need to not make effort again. Now, the question is, when is that? When do we receive al-yaqeen that our ibadah and our deeds and efforts and everything have been accepted? There is no point in life for that. There is there is no point in our life that we are short of that. That is why some mufassirons, they say, what Allah means is, وَعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْمَوْتُ. So worship your Lord until you die. Because you never know which of those deeds will be acceptable. So now, we cannot stop putting efforts just simply because of tawakkul that we mentioned, reliance on the destiny Allah has destined everything. No, otherwise Allah will not permit Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to engage on migration from Makkah to Medina.
No.
Allah knew that he will conquer Makkah for Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam at the end. Why did he ask him to migrate to Yathrib? So that is in effort. That is an effort. So now, if for someone who is hungry, the Prophet ﷺ says, you have to go out to work. Now there is an hadith that says, لو توكلتم على الله حق توكله حق التوكل لرزقكم كما يرزق الطير يسبح خموسا ويغدو بطانا. So if you really put your reliance on Allah the way you should be like a bird. A bird, B-I-R-D. You should be like a bird that wakes up in the morning, gets out of its nest, flies out away, hungry, an empty stomach. Okay, with his empty stomach, goes out all around in search for food, and when it comes back to the nest in the night, it comes back full stomach, satisfied.
Yes.
So that is what we call tawakkul. If you ask tawakkul, you should be like the bird. Wake up in the morning, have a handiwork, have something to do, go to your school, go to your work, go to your job, go to what you are supposed to do. Then at the end of the day, come back with something. So that is the true tawakkul. But to say that I tawakkul Allah, I rely on God, Allah will bless me without even making any effort. The Prophet has said, Inna sama'a la tumutiru dhahaba wala al-fiddata. The heaven does not rain. The heaven does not rain gold and silver. The heaven will not rain gold and silver. That is, money will not drop down for you or from the heaven. You have to put an effort. So people who do that rely on not exerting effort, they end up being beggars. And begging also, it has its effects. So it says in some narration, so there are two defections of asking people or begging people for something. One is if they give you, they take a right of you for it. They control you. And if they don't give you, you are molested. You feel molested for it. So in either case, it is not good for you. It's not any win-win for people to beg. So by not putting effort, we will end up being begging, and begging will humiliate us. So now, when do we put effort and stop putting effort? There is no time that we are asked to stop putting efforts. We have to continue striving. Even by doing that, believing in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the utmost provider of everything, but this what we are doing is just a means, okay, not the utmost goal. For Allah as Allah owns the final verdict of blessing it. We hope for that. What we are doing is just humanly effort. So there is no point in time that we can stop exerting effort, although there is qadar, there is destiny and fate. Based on that, so in the context of wa'bud rabbaka hatta ya'tiyaka al-yaqin. So whatever you are doing, do it until the final end, until the last end, which is until you die. Okay, so in the concept of seeking for knowledge also, the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam already said, "Talabul ilm utlubul ilm min al-mahdi ila al-lahdi." So, meaning to say, so there is no point in time when we can say, I'm too old to learn, or to go to school, or to get education, or to get educated. No. Min al-mahdi illa al-lahadi. From the cradle until the saddle. From cradle, from beginning until the end, until we die. So when we are still alive, it is our process of learning and all that. So there's no time which we have to stop putting or exerting effort.
Thank you very much. Okay. We'll be ending the meeting now, and we truly appreciate your effort. And we are presenting to you this certificates of appreciation, which I'm going to forward to inshallah when we through the telegram later on.
Thank you very much.
We are much where is our the honor is ours, and honestly, personally, I think I'm going to root for you to present at the international level because the quality of what you have presented to us is really impressive. May Allah reward you and increase you in your knowledge.
And I'm sorry for all the delays. I appreciate
No,
your
no, no.
patience
Alhamdulillah,
all
alhamdullah.
throughout.
Yeah, please just give us the closing dua
Thank
for this event. Um, Assalam.
you.